Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. My next guest was a rising hip-hop star in the late 90s with a distinctive style, signed to Bad Boy Records. His career was cut short when he was convicted in the 1999 high-profile shooting at Club New York with Sean Puffy Combs. After serving almost 9 years in prison, he's back with a compelling Hulu documentary called The Honorable Shyne, which details his compelling journey from prison to politics. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Moses Shyne Barrow. What's going on, big time? How are you, man? How's everything?
I'm fine. I try to bring some of that warm weather with me from Belize to the Disney studios here in New York, but it's not really working out. Other than that, I'm managing. I'm remembering my days in Brooklyn where I was prepared for this rigid weather, but I'm happy to be here with a legend such as yourself.
I was getting ready to say, stop lying to the American public. You know you had no chance in hell of bringing that warm weather to New York City. Ain't never been here. You know it ain't coming to Brooklyn. You know not the weather in New York, especially this time of year. You know that ain't coming, right?
I tried, man. Listen, last week the weather was incredible. The weather was incredible. It was like in the 60s.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you. Look, man, let me get right into it with you. First of all, I'm proud of you. Not only are you a politician, you look like a politician. Did you ever in your wildest dreams believe you'd be sitting here today as a politician talking to me and anybody else for that matter?
Well, I'd like to be specific. I'm the opposition leader of the Belize House of Representatives. Okay. So I'm not just a politician, elected representatives. I'm the opposition leader in the House of Representatives, which puts me in line to be the next prime minister of Belize. Wow. For me, I always knew that I was going to make an impact because I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to affect lives. I wanted to lead people in the right way, even as a young kid on the street with a gun in my waist, defending myself and defending my community. Everything that I was doing was geared towards a collective betterment. And if you listen to that first Shyne album, the very first words that I utter in the intro is, "Dear America, I'm only what you made me, young, black, and crazy. Please save me." So that shows you where my mindset was at, speaking in those conscious terms, pleading to the system to provide an alternative to the systematic oppression that, I as a youth and many other urban youth were facing at the time, and saying, listen, if you would build schools instead of prison, I'll stop living the way I'm living. That's what I was saying at 18 years old. So to fast forward to 46-year-old Shyne, who I've been politically active for the last 10 years, I have an opportunity to be the system. And that doesn't always happen. Jay-Z helped Obama become president. Beyonce tried to help the vice president, to
Kamala Harris.
The big jump. But it doesn't always work out. You don't always have someone who can go from the spectrum of entertainment to actually the Oval Office or the Prime Minister's office, in my case. And so in my work in the last 10 years, it was a smooth transition from singing about all that was wrong with the society I was living in to being the person that can provide solutions for all that is wrong. And I don't think it's a stretch to go from, an entertainer to a politician. Ronald Reagan did it. And I believe that all the musicians I grew up around, we were all community-oriented people. And that's what hip-hop does. We give back. We get there and we give back. So giving back on a legislative level, to me, is just the evolution of hip hop.
It is special, no doubt. When I think about the Honorable Shyne, I'm thinking about this documentary. That is the title of it, and I find myself wondering. I'm guessing why now. One would easily surmise it's because of what's happened to Sean Diddy Combs. Others would sit up there and look at it and say, it is election time after all. It seems the perfect opportunity for him to come out with something like this. How do you answer that question? Why now with this with this documentary?
I have been inundated with solicitations to do a documentary for the last 22 years, to be factual. Mark Wahlberg offered me like $1 million deal back in 2004, and I have that proposal. I could share it with you. I just was always looking for the right partner. I was just looking for the right partner, and it had to make sense fiscally, because I'm a shrewd businessman, and it had to be the right partner. And being the right partner was not just a financial commitment. It was a story that we were going to tell. I didn't want to tell the Diddy story. I did not want to tell.
Why not?
Because that's not my story. My story is next Prime Minister of Belize. My story is power. My story is victor. My story is triumph over tragedy. That's my story.
But allow me to interject. Because you emanate from the hip hop community, it is, I use this respectfully. It's a rags to riches story, because I, like you, get upset when we're always highlighting, the rags to riches, or the rags element of the rag to riches story, because everybody seems like every story is about that. But in your case, it's special because, as you highlighted, you're an opposition party leader. You're next in line to be the prime minister. And that is a huge, huge deal. It's one thing to all of a sudden, to go from rags to literally being successful and making money. Well, you did that in the 90s, okay? Because you were making millions in the 90s. But to be a politician, to be a leader, to be in line to be the leader of a nation, I mean, that's something entirely different, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and that's the story. Unfortunately, I think I should have done a bio documentary maybe 10 years ago, and this should have been another documentary focused on my political life and the journey from maybe 10 years ago to now. But I just didn't do it, and that's why I said it was timely. But it was all about finding the right partners and people that understood. Like, when you look at this documentary, it's the first time in my life that I've relinquished creative control in any type of entertainment project. And I had to trust the people that I was working with, and it just doesn't happen like that. And when I found those partners, everything else just happens to be coincidence. 2 years ago, started shooting. We signed a deal 2 years ago. We started shooting production maybe a year and a half ago. And all the other things that you see happening, I can't stop the world from happening. But, my story was bound to be told. And it's not like we just looked at what was happening and said, oh, come on, let's hurry up and tell the Shyne story. The Shyne story is overdue. And as I said, it was about finding the right partners. And with these partners that I have, Marcus Clark and the Disney people, Hulu, Landscape, Disney Plus, if you look at the documentary, I had no creative control. But the documentary doesn't tell the Diddy story. It's not a gotcha, sensational documentary in those terms of trying to exploit, his tragedy. It's talking about what I've been through, and obviously, we're forever linked. We're forever linked. I can never get away from that. I would prefer not to talk about it. I'll be honest with you. When I first saw the documentary, one of my first objections was, why are you focusing so much on the trial? Why, we need to focus more on Belize. Let's focus more on how I made the album. Let's focus more on the creativity. Let's get more people to talk about what a great musician I was. But unfortunately, a part of the story is the pain. A part of the story is the sorrow. A part of the story is the defeat, is the devastation, and we just can't escape that.
And when I use this word educate, I mean respectfully, because obviously you're an educated brother and you know what you're talking about. I'm talking about from a media perspective. From a media perspective, let me educate you on this level. Diddy's story will be told. And no matter what story is going to be told about Diddy, there's a potpourri of things to talk about him for months and years to come. When some folks are talking, and when folks are talking to Shyne and they're talking about Shyne, they want to know about Shyne himself, from his perspective, what he experienced. So tell us, what exactly did you experience? People are going to go to December 27, 1999. They're going to look at things like that. They want to know what happened to Shyne himself. In your words, what happened to you?
Well, in my words, I said so many years ago, back in 2001, I believe that was my first double XL cover. I had about 6. And the cover is Death Before Dishonor. It was me talking about not snitching on Diddy and not getting him in trouble to get myself out of trouble. I said that 20 odd years ago. So I've always maintained in every interview I did until recently when I healed and I moved on and I forgave. But for years, I was saying, what a creep I thought he was and how he destroyed my life. And at one point, I thought he was the devil. But because of the power of Diddy, which is so loud as far as a pop culture icon, nobody listened. So I moved on. And I pivoted my life to healing, to forgiveness, and to taking accountability for what I can control. And I can't control what someone did to me decades ago. I can't control them not wanting to pay reparations, not wanting to make right. That people say, oh, Diddy gave me millions to go to jail. Nothing. Probably made 2 what I thought were offensive contributions over the last 20-something years, which led to a breakdown in the relations. But I moved on. So yes, was I the sacrificial lamb? Of course. Did I take the fall? Yes. There was no quid pro quo. There was not, listen, we're going to have $10 million waiting for you when you come out. I'll just do the right thing. I did that on my own, and I've been saying that. It's not anything new. But in the documentary, just like in this interview, I can't say to you, Stephen A., I don't want to talk about Diddy. Let's talk about me becoming the prime minister. I can't talk about only what I want to talk about. I have to be fair and transparent to the audience. But I've been saying the same thing if you do your research. But he also mentored me in the year or so we spent working together to make one of the greatest hip hop albums ever. I learned a lot as far as being an entrepreneur, as far as being, a disruptor and a trailblazer. And so I got exactly what I went to the University of Bad Boy with Diddy as professor when it comes to entertainment and even things that I've been able to carry with me as far as work ethic, as far as, manifesting the greatness that you want to achieve. So there were some positives. But obviously, going to jail for 10 years when that could have been avoided, or someone that, my mom entrusted, her 19-year-old son, that they would do right by me, to send me to prison when we could have avoided that. There's nothing we can ever do to change that. And so when I'm telling the story, I can't whitewash that. I can't sanitize that. That's not necessarily the story I want to tell. So I hope that the next documentary, the next movie I do will be about, my rise to become prime minister.
When you heard, and I want to move on from this because I'm transitioning to who you are. I want to be very, very clear. I'm not going to be unfair to you and just focus on this. I'm transitioning to who you are and where you stand right now. But I'm just trying to paint a picture. When you heard them sentence you to prison for 10 years, could you take us back to that moment and what kind of effect you thought that would have on you at that moment in time?
I was devastated, but I'm such an eternal optimist that I just kept thinking, I'm going to get a bill. I'm going to get a bill. I'm going to get the judge to give me a bill pending appeal, which is what Tupac got. When Tupac had his case, Death Row was able to get him out on bail pending his appeal. And so I just kept living every day with hope that I'd get a bail pending appeal or I'd have a successful appeal and get out. And I never gave up hope. And I was very spiritual. I was an Orthodox Jew. I'm still spiritual. I'm not as observant as I used to be. Still rap tefillin, still observe Yom Kippur and all the high holidays and Shabbat. Right. But I was always optimistic. But, listen, the first night in prison, I got on my knees and I cried and I said to God, listen, I'm not even going to question you because I didn't question you when I was driving that Bentley last week. I didn't question you when I was driving that Ferrari. I didn't question you living on the 51st floor of the Trump Towers, which is where I was living at the time. This is before MAGA and all that
Right.
stuff. I didn't question you when I sold 1,000,000 records, going from a poor kid in Belize that didn't even have a toilet system and used to have to take the waste bucket to the canal. I never questioned you how you took me from that to a millionaire at the age of 18 to one of the most popular rappers in America and the world. I didn't say, well, why me, God? So I'm not going to say, why me, God, now. All I'm going to ask you is to give me the ability to endure this, the same way that you gave me the ability to make it through everything I made it to this point and to accomplish the things that I accomplished. I felt this was my biggest test to date. And the same way God blessed me to be able to not just survive, but to thrive through all of the adversities up to that point, I knew that God would be able to give me the power to get through this. And so I did that every day. So I was present every day. I never closed my eyes and tried to get away from what I was facing, because I knew instinctively, I knew that it's just like if you want to win a world championship, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, it's grueling. The guys that win the chips are the guys that don't go to the clubs when they're, traveling on the road. It's the guys that are in the arena practicing. It's the guys that don't sleep because they're practicing. It's the guys that go through excruciating training to make sure that they're conditioned, for the championships. And so for me, I looked at what I was going through as me graduating to the next level. Whether I was convincing myself and I was being delusional, it worked, because I did graduate and I am on the next level.
When did you begin studying Judaism? That was in prison, correct?
I became spiritual in a monotheistic way before I was incarcerated. So I always believed in monotheism, and that's why I changed my name to Moses, because Moses was always my hero. Moses was a person that was wealthy, powerful, worked with Pharaoh, but Moses had a moral crisis. And because of that moral crisis as to what was right and wrong and how you treat human beings, he left all his money, all his power, and he went into the wilderness and he led the Israelites to freedom. But he did all that talking to God. So when I was 15 years old, one of my friends got his brains blown out right in front of me. And he was one of the toughest guys that was around us. He was the toughest guy that I knew. And when I saw that happen to him, I became, just awoken by mortality. And I said, if that could happen to him, there's no way that I'm going to survive these streets of Brooklyn. And that's when I started praying. And I started talking to God the same way that my grandmother told me about this Moses. And, that's how I learned about God, not through an intermediary. I'm not judging anyone in their religion, because there's a different route. You can fly to Los Angeles, you can take the train, you can drive. Everyone has a different route to where they need to arrive as a human being. But monotheism spoke to me. Moses, from the 5 books that is in the Quran and in the Torah, spoke to me. And so I started having this conversation with God every day, because every day was life or death for me in Brooklyn, literally.
Well, I'm from Hollis, Queens. Bunch of relatives in Brooklyn, bunch of relatives in the Bronx. I know what you're talking about. Listen, we're running out of time. I'm so mad there's only going to be 30 minutes, because I could have sat down with you for 2 hours with the stuff you talking about, because I got a whole bunch of stuff that I want to get to. But I want to ask you this. How on earth did you become the leader of the opposition party in Belize? I know your dad, if remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, according to my research, first black prime minister in Belize. I mean,
yes.
How'd you become the leader of the opposition party? How'd you climb that high?
Well, remember, I grew up in I left Belize when I was 8, grew up in Brooklyn with my mom. So I love my dad. Him and I, have the best relationship than we've ever had. Now. Obviously, we've had our difficulties in the documentary. You see him being the honorable person that he is and owning up to that. But when I got involved in politics, like everything else in my life, my dad didn't have anything to do with it. He was surprised when he heard from the media.
So how'd you get in it?
When I went back to Belize, I was living in Paris about in 2013, and I went to Belize to visit for my mom's 60th birthday. And, I would always go back to my community, see how people are living, go visit, different relatives. And people would be complaining, we don't know where we're going, things about the change, and we don't know about the new leaders that are going to take over. Why don't you get involved? And there was a friend of the family that said, Shyne, this is your time. We need you. You have this global experience. You have your own wealth. You're not like these corrupt politicians that are going to get involved in politics to get rich and to get famous because you already have that. You actually mean well for the people. And these are the type of leaders that we need. And I said to myself, what am I doing in Paris? Belize needs me. I'm going to come back home and I'm going to get involved. And that was in 2013, about 11 years ago. And I was working ever since then. I started off as the vice chairman of the constituency, and I opened up a resource center, and I just kept working every day. Ironically enough, my uncle, who held the seat that I had, told me that he wasn't going to support me because he already made a promise to one of his friends, and that
Wow.
he's going to beat me in a convention, and so I better find something else to do because I'm never going to become the area representative as long as he's there because he already made promises to someone else. I fought the same way I did in Brooklyn to become Shyne, the rapper, dodging bullets, chasing down street teams, jumping over the desk at Def Jam so that the A&R would hear me. I fought to get here. And so I first won my seat in the House of Representatives. Then I won a convention, a national convention, a party convention to become the party leader. And that's how you become, the opposition leader in the House of Representatives. And I'll fight to win 16 seats to become the next prime minister in the next elections.
And so in other words, you're on the verge of being the next prime minister of Belize. And
When's
that election taking place?
It's not easy.
You here. I'm rooting for you. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I'm a step away from it. And I believe the economy, inflation, similar to what happened here in the United States, that's what people are looking at. People's lives are not better in Belize over the last 4 years of this new administration. So we're going to continue to take that message to all Belizeans, and we're going to continue to work to formulate policies that solve their problems.
And how long, again, that election would be when? 2 years, 3 years? What's the timetable?
That election could be as early as 90 days. I've been in the House of Representatives for the last 4 years. And so elections could be anywhere from 90 to the next maybe 180 days. We suspect 90 days.
And obviously people are going to be watching the Honorable Shyne. We're going to be watching this documentary when they ask you, because inevitably, at least in the United States of America, they're going to ask you, did you hear anything about P. Diddy? Did you hear what happened? How do you feel about what happened? What are you going to say about him, if anything at all, at this point in time in your life?
I pray for the victims. I pray for people like Cassie, who has been proven that she's a victim, and everyone else. I'm not sure the credibility of everyone else. I pray for the victims, and I pray for Diddy. I pray that he's able to do some soul searching, and even if he's not guilty of the accusations, there's a reason he is where he is right now, and it's up to him to communicate with God and to try to cleanse his soul and pivot and move forward and redeem himself. And I pray that he's able to go through that journey and that he has success, because the same way I was rehabilitated and I reformed myself, I'm not here to condemn anyone in perpetuity. I hope that justice is served. If he's not guilty, the judicial system will decide that. If he is, I hope that he's contrite and he turns his life around. And I hope that the victims can get closure.
Direct question. When you've made it very, very clear, and the people who love you have made it very, very clear, you got a bad rap, you took the rap, you suffered because of it unfairly. Is that a roundabout way, or not an indirect way, of saying it wasn't you, it was Diddy who did that shooting in 1999?
I was defending myself. So I would never say that I did not fire in self-defense. But the question is, who else fired? The reality is, the fact is, there were shell casings found from 2 other guns, in addition to mine, shell casings that did not obviously match mine. The forensics never took the ballistics out of the victims. So we don't know who shot the victims. And according to one victim,
Gotcha.
Diddy shot her. Those are just the facts. I maintain that I was acting in self-defense, and I continue to say that. And so I'm innocent in the sense of I did not intentionally try to hurt anyone. I was defending myself. But what complicates it is that 2 other people or 2 other guns were fired. And the victim says Diddy shot her. So that's the reality. Right. So
listen, I got news for you. I got to let you go. I thank you for your time with this interview. My man, at some point in time, I'm not going to put it past me to come to Belize
I was just about to say
Prime
that.
Minister.
You have an open invitation to Belize.
I'm about to roll out there.
I'm
excited about that possibility.
Even though I'm not in government, I try to work with the Minister of Tourism to promote Belize in a bipartisan way. So I'm sort of tourism ministry. We're happy to welcome you.
Right.
And we could hopefully time it around my memoir, because I'm coming out with a book. I gotta write this and
consider it done.
Unlike the documentary that I relinquished creative control, the book is going to be all me. So maybe you could time it around the memoir, but maybe you could come before, check it out, and then come back again for the memoir. I want you down there. I want you to be a regular. I want you to build a house down there.
I'll be happy. Listen,
I want you to take some of that money from that new contract you're getting and come and invest in Belize.
No problem, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to come down, but I want more than 30 minutes. All right?
Absolutely.
We got to hang out.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Stephen.
Man, all the best.
Right.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you. So proud of all that you've been doing. All the best to you, man. Keep making big things happen, all right?
Thank you, my brother. God bless you, and God bless your viewership. God bless Belize. God bless America.
God bless you. No doubt. My thanks to the one and only Moses Shyne Barrow. The Honorable Shyne premieres November 18th on Hulu. Do not miss it. Make sure you check it out. Trust me, it will be worth it.
A lot of you don't understand why Trump was so popular. And the reason he's loved is because people in Ohio have never seen somebody like him. That first debate, I'd never seen anything like it. I've never seen a white male billionaire screaming at the top of his lungs, this whole system is rigged. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama sitting over there looking at him like, no, it's not. And the moderator said, well, Mr. Trump, if in fact the system is rigged, what would be your evidence? He said, I know the system is rigged because I use it. I said, God damn. And then Hillary Clinton tried to punch him in the taxes. She said, this man doesn't pay his taxes. He shot right back. That makes me smart. And then he said, if you want me to pay my taxes, then change the tax code. But I know you won't, because your friends and your donors enjoy the same tax breaks that I do. And with that, my friends, a star was born.